In this unit, we will talk about the effects that a dual sensory impairment has on a student, as well as the diversity and culture of the deafblind population. Students who are deafblind struggle in all aspects of life, primarily due to the access of hearing and seeing things around them. There is a difficulty in accessing communication, which can in turn make it difficult to have relationships with others. However, it is important to note that students who are deafblind do communicate through body language, facial expressions, behavior, etc. Students who are deafblind struggle because they do not have the opportunity to incidental learning, the things that just happen around us, which can also cause struggles in perceptions because everything must be taught explicitly, piece by piece, step by step. Deafblind students don't have the opportunity to see the whole picture. We need to remember these key points when we are developing our lesson plans for our students. How are you going to provide them access to the experiences they've never had? You can do this through exposure and texture of items, but remember to follow the child's lead. Never force them to experience something they are not ready for. Just continually introduce it to them. These next few slides go over some experiences that you may encounter with your student, some behaviors they may exhibit, and some strategies of how you can help the student. Communication is one of the many challenges you will encounter with your student. Remember that every behavior is a communication act. What is the child trying to tell you? What are ways that you can get the child to communicate with you? Remember that the key part to communication is trust, so take time to bond with the child. It doesn't have to be anything formal or forced. Touch is huge. Follow the child's lead and take data on the behavior you are seeing and how the child is communicating with you. Have the other students come over and interact with your student who is deafblind. This will take much guidance on your part, but your student deserves to have meaningful access to staff and peers. When I say plan complete activities, I mean activities that the student can start and finish in one setting, therefore representing a whole versus partial information. It may mean that your activities for the student may be short to begin with, and you will have to work up to longer activities. Also use multiple modalities when you're planning your lesson. Remember that the student may have little or no hearing or vision, so think of creative ways you can incorporate smell, touch, and taste into your activities. Some examples might be smelly markers, smelly bubbles, bubble wrap or sandpaper, flavor Cool Whip or Kool-Aid for art projects, or other textures for activities. I always suggest taking one of your current lesson plans and seeing how you can adapt it to meet the needs of your student who is deafblind. You do not have to recreate the wheel, but you will have to think creatively on how to meet the student's needs. A parent knows their child best. I would always send an interest survey home to my parents to find out what the child liked to do and the items, smells, and textures the child enjoyed. We want to create intrinsic motivation, but we may need to start with extrinsic, especially to get the child to explore their environment. I also found that just watching the child during unstructured times told me a lot about them. What did they gravitate to or away from? Why? Why not? Join in the child's activities. Teach them how to explore, how to take turns. This means also teaching the other students in your class how to do that with your student who is deafblind. It's important to know what the parent's goals are for the child, both short and long term. Sometimes you'll be surprised by their response when you ask this question. It is important to be supportive of the parent. Many times the student has serious medical problems and developmental delays. There will be times that you will see major growth, and at other times you may see a plateau or even regression, but don't ever give up. Meet the child where they are on that day and build from there. This is also why communication with the parents is crucial. I had one student who had a seizure disorder in addition to being deaf and blind, and there were days where he would come to school and sleep the majority of it away. This is okay. The child needed the rest, and so did his parents, because they had been up all night with him with his seizures. Be kind and understanding to the parents, even if you think they should have kept the child home or should be doing something different. Remember, we only have them for 6 hours a day, and the parents have them for 18 plus the weekends. This is once again another area where careful observation of the child needs to take place. You need to see how the child learns best. I had another student who was deaf and blind and would always take off her shoes to touch things with her feet. This may look like a strange behavior, but it was an alternative way of her using her sense of touch. So while it may look strange, she is accessing and exploring the environment around her. We have to consider what our ultimate goal is for the child and be flexible on things that may seem different or unusual. What is the function of the behavior, and is it something I need to be flexible on, and how can I teach the student using their unique ways of learning? Deafblind culture. The deafblind community is very separate from the deaf community. Oftentimes, the deaf community will shun those with deafblindness because they believe they are different and disabled, or they don't see themselves in this light. The deafblind population does not have a lot of opportunities to come together with one another because they are far and few between. However, they do have opportunities with the use of technology these days with such things such as YouTube, Skype, email, etc. They also have an opportunity to meet during conferences on deafblindness that are held around the world. Only individuals with deafblindness can relate to one another in the experience they have had. It is very difficult to relate and understand to what a deafblind individual has gone through in regards to communication, relationships, and learning. If you've never had that experience yourself, it is best to ask questions and listen, and not try to relate to their learning experiences.